Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. The magazine The Economist printed an article in November entitled, Beijing Insiders Plan to Play Donald Trump. And it makes some interesting observations. The most important one is, in the eyes of Beijing's leaders, President Donald Trump is not as strong as it appears. In fact, he's a weak president. Well, you may be alarmed at hearing this, but they do have some point. And in the eyes of Beijing's leaders, as I said, Donald Trump, President Trump, has his own weaknesses, which can be manipulated to achieve Beijing's higher goals. As for what the higher goals are, let's do a quick review to explain this further. President Trump started the trade war against Beijing in his first term in about roughly 2018. Actually, we can say he single-handedly altered United States policy to remain in China, from a more cooperative one to a more competitive one. Beijing was somewhat shocked. Actually, Beijing was somewhat rattled and had no choice but to respond. But in the end, Beijing concluded, as we pointed out before, in several months ago. We said, in conclusion, Beijing said, we had no preparation for this trade war, but we did not lose. And actually, Donald Trump got out of the office. He left White House in the end. So we might not have won the trade war, but anyway, we did not lose. And that's a key point. So this time, after Donald Trump returned to White House and started the second round of the trade war, Beijing comes prepared. They retaliated by imposing equally heavy tariffs on U.S. goods, and they have many weapons to use in their arsenal, such as EVs, batteries, fentanyl, and of course, rare earth. And Beijing gives the United States a hard time, actually a very hard time. So they come to an uncomfortable and uneasy truce. And both Donald Trump and Xi Jinping return home and make better preparation for the second round, for the next round. Most importantly, Beijing is quite happy, and they're pleased that they are making some progress this time, because they noticed that unlike Trump's first term, this time Trump and his associates seldom talk about ideological confrontation between the two countries. They seem to focus more or solely on trade war, trade competition, technological competition, and things like that. They talked very little about the differences between the value systems between the two societies. And so that's why they think they are making some progress this time. I remember some time ago I mentioned that in the eyes of Beijing, they are not just fighting a tariff war against the United States. Actually, they have higher goals, or they have bigger goals for this. One of the bigger goals is that they want to establish, or they want to build a what they call the new type of great power relationship with the United States. There are three basic principles involved in this concept of so-called new type great power relationship. The first one is no conflict and no confrontation, meaning they want to avoid the so-called Thucydides trap when a great power facing the rise of another great power, and they don't want that. They want to avoid that, or they want to escape that. So they maintain that both the United States and Communist China should maintain a very smooth channel of communication so that the differences between the two countries can be controlled. And that's the first principle. The second principle is mutual respect. It sounds very good, right? They propose that both countries should respect each other's social system and models for development and so on and so forth. And they should mutually respect the other country's core interests, such as sovereignty, political systems, and integrity of the territories. And questions like, of course, Taiwan, South China Sea, Xinjiang, Uyghur, and Tibet issues, the list can go on. But I can add another new addition to this list, Hong Kong, the Hong Kong issue. And that's the second principle. The last principle is what they call win-win cooperation. And China claims that the United States and China should enhance cooperation in areas like economy, in trade, climate change, anti-terrorism, energy, and national security, things like that. They should replace zero-sum competition with further cooperation between the two countries. So this is what they call the core values or the core ideas of this so-called new type great power relationship. Let's now relate it to the Economist article. How is Beijing going to play Donald Trump? Well, as we mentioned before, in the eyes of Beijing's leaders, Trump has his own weaknesses. He seems to enjoy the idea of being a peacemaker. He always talks about how he ended this war and how he ended that war, and it seems he cherished the idea very much. And if Beijing knows for sure that President Putin of Russia wants a truce or wants a peace treaty, then Beijing can adjust their own tactics. They can turn around and say to President Trump, saying that, well, I can help you stop the war. I can help you persuade President Putin to stop the war. Then in that case, you can make peace there, and that's the biggest achievement so far that you can make. It doesn't matter whether this move be successful or not. The idea itself can be easily related to the Taiwan situation. Beijing can tell President Trump, doesn't you want to stabilize the situation in Taiwan? Yes, you do. And let me tell you, they can argue this way. Let me tell you, the only way or the only reason that war will come to Taiwan is because Taiwan seeks independence enthusiastically. If Taiwan does not seek independence, then there is peace. And the easiest way to achieve this is for you. You, President Trump, say openly that the United States opposes Taiwan independence. Take away the possibility of independence for Taiwan, then there is peace in Taiwan. So you, President Trump, is a peacemaker in Taiwan. And that's a decade-long problem, and it's resolved by you, President Trump. And by that, you deserve a Nobel Prize laureate, and that's for sure. So simple like that. So the best way for that, for Beijing, is not just an open declaration. The best way is a fourth communique, as we mentioned before. And if they sign a fourth communique, then Beijing would say, well, this is a big victory for us. Well, the communist leaders in Beijing can boast, I fooled 3 United States presidents and walked away with 3 communiques in the past. Now let's see if I can pull out the 4th one. You may think this is crazy, but this is definitely not crazy for evilish and devious communists. I hope this will never happen. So I hope this episode can serve as a friendly reminder to American people, a reminder to American government, and a reminder for all the people in the world. Well, this is all I want to share with you today. I hope you like it. And again, if you haven't subscribed to it, please do so and share it with your friends. And I'll see you next time.